Yo, what is going on, everybody? So I have an email here. Actually, I have 3 emails and several instances of this article in the comments of my videos, but I get so many comments every day, I just couldn't go through and name everybody. So thank you to Simon, thank you to Yukov, and thank you to Maggie Alpha One for this article. I actually found this article before you guys emailed me, but still thank you for sending it to me. This article, and before I get into this, guys, we constantly have everyone saying, oh, you know, you MGTOW guys just hate women. You're afraid of commitment. You know, you just can't handle a real woman. You know, like all this typical shaming stuff, right? We know the crap that we hear. It's pretty much water under a bridge. It's just blah, 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 bullshit from dumbass feminists. But this is the real reason. This kind of shit, when this happens, and it happens more than you think, but this is a really high profile case. When this kind of shit happens, this is like, okay, this is a textbook argument for going your own way. Textbook. Especially if you're wealthy. Right? In an instant, I wasn't a dad. Wife is forced to pay husband £250,000 for tricking him into believing 3 sons were his for 21 years after his doctor told him he had been infertile since birth. Now, this guy's name is Richard Mason. There's a number of articles out there on this, but I found this particular one from the Daily Mail to be the most comprehensive and the most detailed. So this is the one I'm going to share with you. A devoted father has revealed he discovered the 3 sons he had raised for more than 20 years were not his when doctors told him he had been infertile since birth. Now, Richard Mason's ex-wife has been ordered to pay him £250,000 following an extraordinary legal case that has allowed her to keep the identity of the real father secret. You guessed it. He's not allowed to find out the real father's name. He's not allowed to have the real father held accountable financially. He's not allowed to even give his sons the real father's name, since he can't be the dad anymore, right? Well, he can, but not after what happened. I'm going to go into that. Devastated Mr. Mason never doubted he was the boy's biological dad until 2 years ago, when he was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, an inherited disease which prevents male sufferers from fathering children naturally. DNA and other tests later confirmed beyond doubt that the businessman has no biological links, none, to his eldest, now 23, and his 19-year-old twins, throwing his life and his relationship with them into turmoil, understandably. Mr. Mason believes that the same man fathered all 3 boys during an intermittent 4-year affair his wife Kate, now 54, embarked on in the late 1990s, aka riding the carousel while she had the chance. And I'm not dismissing any of the severity of what's happened here, okay? But I do talk all the time about, I don't believe that human beings are biologically pre-programmed for monogamy. Some people disagree with me, and I totally respect your opinions. But everything I see around me just seems to support this more and more. And this is a textbook case. But she only confessed to the adultery in 2016, 10 years on from their divorce, when he confronted her about the children's paternity. It is not known if Mrs. Mason's former lover is aware he has 3 sons from the on-off relationship. The heart-wrenching case came to light when Mr. Mason launched a legal bid to claw back some of the, wait for it, £4 million his wife received in their divorce settlement. See, we're not afraid of commitment. we're afraid of divorce. And Canadian Lobster just said she only confessed when she got caught. That's absolutely correct. I see it all the time. I even was literally putting my letter in the letterbox today to finalize all my financial separation stuff for my separation from my ex-wife that happened almost 2 years ago now, but just getting finalized. And I heard a girl on the phone saying, oh, but am I going to get in deep shit for this? Basically asking, am I going to get in trouble for this? Is it worth me admitting to doing the wrong thing? That's basically what I heard from that. But let me continue this article for you. So the heart-wrenching case came to light when Mr. Mason launched a legal bid to claw back some of the $4 million his wife received in their divorce settlement, as well as suing her for paternity fraud. As a result, 2 of the boys have since broken off contact with him. Legal papers seen by the Mail on Sunday reveal that when she became pregnant with the first child, Mrs. Mason declared a sudden interest in Judaism and also insisted all 3 children were given Jewish middle names. She also refused to have them christened. Now, guys, call me crazy, but I think I just have this sneaking suspicion. This sneaking suspicion that she might have fathered these children to a Jewish guy. Just a hunch. I can't be certain of anything. I just feel, right? Because women feel stuff all the time, and that is pretty much put out there as fact. But I just feel like that could be the case here. Maybe she didn't want the real father to have to dish out those shekels. Mr. Mason from Ross, North Wales, believes it is a clue to the identity of the real father. You think? But he is tortured by not knowing who he is and has called on his ex-wife to admit the truth, if only for the sake of her sons. I totally agree. It would be the right thing to do, in my opinion. And you know, there's cheating going on all the time in relationships where there's no kids, and it is what it is, you know, like, it's shit, and I wish it didn't happen, but it does. But when there's kids involved, things are a lot more serious. Last night, Mr. Mason, 55, a wealthy co-founder of internet comparison site moneysupermarket.com. Wait, so he's wealthy? So you mean he's the beta provider? Oh, it all makes sense. Oh, and isn't that just a pretty picture of that wall smash thought before they got divorced, and him, the good beta provider, raising someone else's kids that he didn't even know were someone else's kids because she was so selfish that she had kids to someone else and let him raise them. Peppermint Cat's House, by the way, thank you so much for that $5. You said life is too short to dance with fat women. Actually, any women. Well, the fat women are not very likely to dance, I've got to be honest. It is not known. Here we go. Where is he? Here we go. So Mr. Mason told the Mail on Sunday that discovering the boys were not his own left his life in pieces. You don't know what's real and what isn't. It's as if I'm living in the Matrix, he said. Someone says to you all that you know and everything you thought to be solid and true is not real and never did exist. You are not a father. You are not able to have kids. Your name will not continue. And, you know, that's a real perfect example of what it's like taking the red pill when we realize that everything we've been programmed to believe up until this point is not true, that we've been lied to by our mothers, by society, by the women around us, by so many of the men around us who are these blue-pilled men that think they know what's going on, right? Because they're blue-pilled. And now these men are being we're being red-pilled in the millions, right? Even Caliban says, I've banged lots of married women who are living with their husband. Shit, man, I was in my early 20s. I banged a fairly attractive looking 50-year-old woman who had apparently never slept with anyone but her husband and had a daughter my age, right? So don't think that wives are loyal forever. Neither are husbands sometimes. This is just the reality. This is just the reality of relationships and marriage. You have to understand this, guys, because if you don't understand it, you genuinely are going to end up getting fucked one day. And not in the dick and vagina type of fucked, like the $4 million plus alimony, plus finding out your kids aren't yours type of fucked. Right? So if any of you got kids on the way, or you've got a kid, buy yourself a Christmas present this year. A DNA test. Make sure they're yours. I still see what the boys are doing on Facebook, he says, and it's heart-wrenching because we saw the graduation of the eldest on there, but I wasn't invited. I walk past a toy store and it reminds you of buying Christmas presents for them and other family occasions. And when friends post things on Facebook about their own families, like their first grandchild, or saying they're proud of their boy for something, I just think, my God, that's all been taken away from me. His solicitor, Roger Terrell, an expert in the field, launched a twin-pronged legal attack, not only to have the divorce settlement reviewed in the family court, but also to seek damages from Mrs. Mason for paternity fraud in Birmingham County Court. We understand it's illegal first, because there has never been a divorce financial settlement set aside in such emotive circumstances, said Mr. Terrell. Right? Normally it's the husband who's brought back to court because he's failed to disclose some of his income. But in this case, it was the wife, and it was the paternity of the children which was the issue. All this makes it very unusual. Maybe unusual, but not uncommon. And I agree with Philip Trevor's suggestion that DNA tests should be mandatory at birth. In fact, I think One Nation said that there was one of their policies that they were looking at, mandatory DNA testing at birth. And oh God, if we get Bill Shorten in, the Labour Prime Minister, if he's our next Prime Minister at election time, we are completely fucked. He has pledged today, and I put it on my Twitter feed, that he is going, if Labour gets in, then he is going to make sure that Labour is the first cabinet of ministers ever to be 50-50 women in Australia, half women. Not because merit, but because vagina. Mr. Mason, now remarried, said his ex-wife tricked him into believing the boys were his, when at the very least, there must have been some doubt in her mind, not least because she only became pregnant 7 years into their marriage. After the divorce, she constantly hounded me for more maintenance, even though I always complied with the child support agency demands, he said. Meanwhile, the biological father has never paid a penny, as far as I know. Right? The walls of Richard Mason's study are crowded with photographs of 3 tousle-haired boys caught at the milestone moments of their young lives. Like any father, he cherishes these precious reminders of holidays, family celebrations, and the school years during which his sons grew into adulthood. But after 20 years, that paternal pride was suddenly shattered, replaced by profound sorrow and a burning sense of betrayal, understandably so. In 2016, he was told that it was medically impossible for him to have fathered the sons he loved and still loves. The news came at the cruelest possible moment, while he was reeling from the shock of being diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, a life-limiting condition that effectively meant Richard, 55, was living on borrowed time. As he tried to come to terms with the diagnosis, the multi-millionaire businessman also learned that a devastating side effect of the genetic condition was infertility. Despite apparent evidence to the contrary in the shape of the sons he had watched being born, there was no medical chance whatsoever they could be related to him by blood. I just didn't know who I was anymore, he told the Mail on Sunday. So he watched some other man's children being born to his wife. It's like suffering a bereavement. It's incredible. But in a way, it's even worse than that because it goes to the very heart of who you think you are. When someone asks you about your background, you tell them you're the father of 3 children. It's how you define yourself. In an instant, I discovered I didn't really have any children. Right? And women will never, ever, ever understand the pain. They'll never understand the pain of finding out that your child isn't yours because they know it's theirs. It came from them. They'll never understand the pain ever, and they'll never be able to contemplate it. You begin to question everything you thought you knew when such a fundamental pillar of your life is suddenly removed. That day 2 years ago, when the life Richard thought he had was dismantled by a few sentences from a hospital consultant, marked the beginning of his legal quest to wring the truth from his ex-wife, 54 years old. The couple, who met as colleagues at Barclays Bank, married in 1987. Hypergamy kicked in. That was just my little addition to it. Divorced 20 years later, and Kate received a $4 million lump sum. Sorry, £4 million lump sum, not dollars. Pounds is way more. That's, in fact, let me just jump in here now. Let me convert £4 million to American dollars for you guys. £4 million to US dollars. Oh God. Yeah, over 5 million US dollars. Yeah, so she received a £4 million lump sum as well as ongoing maintenance. In December 2016, after discovering he was not the father of the boys, who we have chosen not to name, Richard set out to claw back some of the millions he had paid to her over the years in a case believed by his lawyer to be illegal first. He launched a rare paternity case. Right? A rare paternity case. And a few weeks back, she agreed out of court, of course, because she knew that she might get fucked a little bit harder in court, to hand back a £250,000 portion of the lump sum after he sought to have the divorce financial settlement set aside. The case hinged on her alleged deceit. As he tries to adjust to the devastating transformation of his life through illness and the loss of his children, Richard clings to the fervent hope that he can at least somehow repair the fractured relationships with the boys he refers to as the sons I thought were mine, before it is too late. On the day which would change his life forever, Richard and his current wife, he got married again. Can you believe this guy? But, you know, like I said, blue pill, right? He doesn't know any better. And his current wife, Emma, drove the 65 miles to Liverpool's Broad Green Hospital from their home in Ross, North Wales. They imagined the appointment was to routinely alter the antibiotics used to treat the pleurisy which had plagued Richard for more than a year. Though there is a family history of cystic fibrosis, a genetic test carried out in the 1980s had given him the all clear. This time, however, the news would not be so good. The consultant, Dr. Dennis Watt, sat us down in his office and broke it to me as Emma sat by my side, said Richard. Hi. I went to his frantic... actually, let me just see if that's later on the article. Here we go. He said, I'm really sorry to tell you, Richard, that you've got cystic fibrosis. I was stunned. My initial reaction was, fuck no. Because my sister had died of this and my younger sister's also very ill with it. What came next was a far more profound shock. One which would lead Richard to question every facet of his life up until that point. Dr. Watt said he was aware that we'd been trying for a baby and considering fertility treatment, and added, I need to tell you that men with cystic fibrosis cannot conceive a child unless it's by IVF. But I said, Well, you must have got the wrong diagnosis then, because I've got 3 sons. I actually felt pleased to be able to tell him this, because in my mind it proved his diagnosis was wrong, and therefore I hadn't got the disease which killed my sister. But he looked over at the nurse as if to say, how do we deal with this? He turned back to me and said, let me tell you, Richard, in Liverpool we look after 2,000 males with cystic fibrosis, and not one, not a single one has ever fathered a child. Apart from one case where the DNA suggested a man was the father, only for it to turn out his brother had been having an affair with the man's wife and made her pregnant. Can't make this shit up, guys. He just told me I should have a conversation with my ex-wife. After that, I just had that feeling of ringing in your ears after you hit your head really hard. Nothing seemed to sink in. I know that feeling. I know that ringing noise. His voice cracking with emotion, he added, I didn't cry then, but I was shaking and the room was ringing. People were talking, but I wasn't taking it in. I was just thinking, shit, my life is ruined. How are you going to tell your friends and family, parents, aunties and uncles that they do not have grandchildren or nephews? Still in a daze, Richard walked out of the hospital to the car park and with shaking hands composed a text to Kate, telling her what he'd just learned and that he would now have to undergo sperm analysis and an ultrasound scan on his scrotum. He wrote, I was hoping that you could relieve me of this further indignity by letting me know if I am the father. Letting me know now if I am the father, sorry. I'm happy to go along with your advice as to how best tell the boys, but if you force me to go through these extra tests, then I shall be telling them as I wish. I have no intention of suing you and would like to remain in the boys' lives. Her reply came within minutes, but was somewhat less than categorical. Of course the boys are yours, no matter what the science may suggest. And this is just further proof that women don't believe in facts over feelings. Feelings are the only thing that matter. Fuck science, right? Hey, who needs fucking science? Right? Just listen to me. Just hashtag believe women, because I'm telling you they're your sons. I'm telling you that the $4 million you gave me, plus £4 million you gave me, plus the additional money in alimony and child support were for the kids that are yours. That aren't actually yours, but I'm just going to lie to you about it to your fucking face. Disgusting. Far from convinced. Good man. Richard decided to take the momentous step of informing his eldest son, then aged 21, and a university student. I told him I'd just been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, which he took surprisingly calmly. And I said yes, but one of the things that I've just been told is that it's extremely unlikely that someone with cystic fibrosis could father a child. He said, I'm already ahead of you, Dad. You're saying you're probably not my father. It would have been the hardest sentence to utter, and he did it for me. I said, well, I'm your dad, obviously, but I don't think I conceived you. It was very emotional, but I was also very angry. I did break down and weep, but it took a few days for that to happen once the shock had subsided. 2 days later, after being confronted by her son, Kate phoned Richard and admitted she'd been seeing a man in an on-off affair during their 20-year marriage, but refused point blank to name him. Hey, at least we know he's Jewish, right? She said he was a member of Barclays staff and that they met in a London hotel from time to time on overnight trips she attended as a union official. She claimed there were 6 to 12 occasions where they had sex, which covered the times when she fell pregnant. But it couldn't be him because they used condoms each time, so insisted that Richard must be the father. I know who the father is. It's Shlomo Sheckelberg. Bet you're hiding in the comments, aren't you, Shlomo? Just sitting there, waiting for me to call you out on your paternity. And Peppermint Cat's Ass with another generous donation says the pimp hand can fix all of this overnight. 100%, brother. 100%. Shlomo, you sneaky, sneaky motherfucker. Richard and Kate had met while working at a branch of the bank in the West Midlands in the 1980s, and he enjoyed a high-flying career, especially when he teamed up with university accountant dropout Simon Nixon, who went on to launch one of Britain's first price comparison sites, Money Supermarket. On flotation in 2007, Richard's 1.25% shareholding became worth a staggering $10 million overnight. The 3 boys were, Richard believes, the only good things to come out of a marriage he described as cold and joyless. He was present for all their births by cesarean, the first in 1995 and then twins 4 years later. But by the beginning of 2007, the marriage was on the rocks and he and Kate separated. The divorce was finalized in early 2008, and in the financial settlement a year later, Kate's £4 million lump sum included the boys' private school fees in advance. Richard complied with child support agency, later the Child Maintenance Service, assessments for maintenance, which amounted to nearly $3,000 a month in the early years following the divorce. So £36,000 a year on top of the £4 million she just gave him. But according to Kim, that was never enough for Kate. Of course it wasn't enough for Kate. Of course it wasn't enough for Kate. It's never enough, is it, for the separated mother? They always need more money. She hounded me for years, employing consultants to investigate my financial affairs and tried to make me pay more, he said. His surprisingly youthful features contorted with suppressed rage. Meanwhile, as far as I know, the biological father of the boys has never paid a shekel, I mean penny, for their upkeep. Kate now lives very comfortably in a £1 million, 7-bedroom house in Uttoseta, Uttoxeter, I think it is. Whatever. Staffordshire, with a new partner. And so she's got the new boyfriend after she got the £4 million, after she got the £36,000 a year. A new boyfriend living in the house that her husband paid for. Her ex-husband, that is. And when Richard last visited to pick up the boys, there were 4 cars in the long driveway. 4. Including a Range Rover Vogue and a C-Class Mercedes Cabriolet. Of course, nothing but the best for the ex-wife, right? In the face of Kate's denial, Richard felt he had no option but to seek advice from paternity fraud expert solicitor Roger Terrell, and the legal case was launched in December 2016 in Birmingham County Court. Medical tests confirmed that Richard was incapable of producing sperm in the normal way, and DNA tests on the 16-year-old twins proved they were not his sons. The eldest, however, refused to provide a DNA sample, saying, "As far as I'm concerned, he's my dad, and that's that." But as the legal case progressed, he also had a devastating message for his father, Richard said. "My eldest told me, Dad, if you sue Mum, I will never speak to you again." And to this day, he hasn't. One of his twins hasn't been in touch either, but the other, now at uni, texts Richard fairly regularly. But as Richard pointed out, the emotional fallout has gone way beyond himself and the boys. What haven't I noticed? Kick him in the kanga. Apparently I missed something. And by the way, thank you so much to AV Scotland A.V. Scott and Flower for the 10, I don't know what currency that is, but there's 10,000 of them. It's it looks like it's about $5 or so Australian, regardless of whether you're the biological father or not. It's her kids, always, not yours. Go MGTOW, don't willingly walk into the slaughterhouse. That is basically correct. Yes. I'm going to continue with this. His 85-year-old mother, Brenda, has Alzheimer's, and when he visits her once or twice a week, she'll invariably ask, "How are the boys?" And fighting back tears, he said, all these years she thinks they were her grandchildren. So when she asks, I might say, "Fine," and change the subject, but I can't lie to her, and invariably I'll have to tell her I don't see them anymore. Can you imagine how heartbreaking that must be to have to let your kids know that? Sorry, to have to let your mother know that. Then I have to explain why. And then we both relive the agony together, with me knowing I'll have to do it all over again the following week. It's unbearable. My family too have lost the boys, and I feel they're lost too. The ripple effect of Kate's lies have been massive. The future is depressing to me. I expected the joys of graduation, 21st birthday celebrations, weddings, grandchildren, the hopes and fears of your offspring setting off to be adults and guiding and helping them along the way. You know, just being a dad, really. That has been stolen from me in the most brutal way possible. He struggles with how to characterize his relationship to the boys, not only when speaking to others, but also in his own mind. I'm not their father, I know that, but I'm still their dad. When I talk about them with other people, naturally after 21 years, I say my sons, and then I have to stop and correct myself and say, the sons I thought were mine. It's different if you adopt or foster a child. That's been done out of choice without any deceit or lies. In this case, because there's been deception, it eats away at you. I'm not their father. I'm not even a friend of the family. I'm just a guy who was there when they were being brought up. He finds himself being tortured by a flashback when he wakes in the middle of the night. A flashback to a hitherto insignificant moment from years earlier, but now viewed through the prism of suspicion. The scene is an Indian restaurant which the couple are visiting for the first time, yet the owner recalls seeing Kate on many occasions before, despite her denials. Then what to make of the sudden interest in Judaism, which Kate declared during her first pregnancy, and her insistence that each of the boys should have a Jewish middle name. Richard was curious at the time, but now believes it was a big clue to the identity of the boy's biological father. He desperately wants to know who that man is. He has his theories, one centered around a former boyfriend of Kate's who also worked at the bank, and she has denied it, and he doesn't want to accuse him with no firm evidence. I would like the biological father to read this article and come forward, he said, not least for the boys' sake, because they will want to know who their real father is, even if hopefully they will always think of me as their dad. Richard's lung capacity has deteriorated dramatically as a result of his cystic fibrosis. Since he was diagnosed 2 years ago, from 84% of average to 72%, but now appears more stable due to antibiotics. But he reckons he has about 10 years before they will have to depend on an oxygen tank to breathe. The same journey his sister Susan traveled while waiting for a lung transplant in 1989. She passed away on the operating table while renowned heart surgeon Dr. Sir Magdi Yacoub attempted a heart-lung transplant at Harefield Hospital. Richard readily admits that only his love for Emma has kept him going and helping her through her own breast cancer. She is now 6 months clear after having one breast removed, but will have a second mastectomy and a hysterectomy soon because she has the killer gene inherited from her mother, who died of the disease aged 42. Hysterectomy. On the plus side, he gets to cream pie her as much as he likes without more child support. Richard is most better that Kate's deception over the boy's paternity has also effectively robbed him of having his own child with Emma. Dude, really? Suck of a punishment, Richard. Only a few weeks after Richard learned that he was infertile, Emma, now 46, received her cancer diagnosis and began a course of chemotherapy which put her body into a premature menopause. Looking ahead, Richard, whose persistent cough is the only clue to his declining lung capacity, now wants one thing more than ever, to be the boy's dad once again. If I could wave a magic wand, I would want to be all in their lives. Sorry, guys, I wasn't laughing at him wanting to be the dad once again. I was laughing at Michael Guevara calling me a savage for that cream pie comment. Though two of the boys still maintain a stony silence towards him, Richard was overjoyed to receive a text from the third last month, which began, "Dad, as I explained from the beginning, you would never not be dad to me regardless of all this. Of course I'll stay in touch. That will never change. I'm always here for you too, and you will always be dad. Love you." Wow, I didn't read that bit, but that shit just got me all shaky, because can you imagine going through that and then having your sons reach out to you like that? David, all kinds of cream pies. Busting all kinds of nuts. Get my Hodge twins on there. Anyway, Kate Mason and her sons were all approached by the mail on Sunday but declined to comment. A donation will be made to the Cystic Fibrosis Trust in return for Richard Mason's cooperation with this article. So, I mean, that was a pretty comprehensive article. I don't really know what to say to that, other than, guys, you must get DNA tests at birth. If you have a friend who's having a baby, if you're having a friend who's having a baby, buy him a DNA test. Do the fucking DNA test yourself. Swab the kid and then swab that fucker while he's sleeping in the chair next to his wife. Do what you got to do to make sure that you know he is the father. Anyway, men, I'm going to bounce for now. It's not really time for me to comb my beard, but, you know, I guess I could if I wanted to, because I do have my comb right here. Oh, man. Another few years of this and I'll be looking like Isaac Butterfield from the bottom lip down. Well, at least to here, like here. You know what I'm talking about. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I appreciate you all. If you want to support me on PayPal, paypal.me/SydneyMGTOW. Guys, also, I am probably going to be ceasing Patreon support just because I just can't, in good faith, continue to give Patreon money. So I'm going to be putting a Patreon video up letting you guys know, to those of you who are my Patreon subscribers that may not have seen this, that I will be looking towards other methods of bringing stuff to you. I just can't, you know, it's a couple $100 a month, but it's not the right thing to do. I just can't support Patreon anymore. Oh, hang on. Spider-Man Marvel says, no, please don't leave. Said, I'll tell you what, Spider-Man, I won't leave Patreon, but I'm not going to be putting content on there anymore. If anyone wants to cancel their patronage, I totally understand. If you would prefer to donate directly via bank account, if you live in Australia, please email me and ask for my details. If you would prefer to donate by PayPal, you're more than welcome to do so. I'm really trying to look for other options because I just, you know, I can't support these fuckers anymore. Anyway, I will, I'm over on subscribestar.com/SydneyMGTOW. Don't know how that's going to go, given that Patreon pulled out of them, unlike me, never pull out. Although I probably should. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate you. Smash the thumbs up here. And yeah, share this video with anyone that needs to see it. Appreciate you guys. Peace.